Okay, so before we start in today's class, let's take up a quick relook into what we discussed in the last class. So we started with entropy change in a reversible process. And we discussed about Carnot cycle, and as you know that the cycle consists of 4 reversible processes such as reversible isothermal heat addition, reversible adiabatic expansion, which is also known as isentropic expansion, then reversible isothermal heat rejection and reversible adiabatic compression. Okay, and we applied this entropy change for all these individual processes, and we got the equations for all the 4 processes. Followed by reversing the direction, we also saw that how a heat engine, a reversible heat engine rather, when we interchange the directions, turns into a refrigerator or heat pump. This also we discussed. And then we took an example of isentropic expansion of steam in a turbine, and we solved to determine the work output using the concept of entropy change. Okay, so that is the importance here. It's not that we are just calculating the work out or turbine work output, but we are using the concept of this entropy from the state 1, and we are using that to state 2, and then we are calculating the work output. Now in today's class, of course, this also we determine constant pressure heat transfer process, where a change of state from saturated liquid to saturated vapor was considered, and we solved. We are using 2 methods. One, by directly looking from the property diagrams for a given pressure, how the change in entropy, that is from state 1 to state 2, so S2 minus S1 can be equated as SFG, and by using the concept of HFG by T, so both are equal, both will give the same result. Okay. Now in today's class we will take up another example, constant temperature process applied to a reversible process. Now let's see that constant temperature heat transfer process. The statement is, so let me read the statement. A cylinder piston setup contains 1 liter of saturated liquid refrigerant, that is R12, at 20 degrees Celsius. The given temperature is 20 degrees Celsius. The piston now slowly expands, maintaining constant temperature to a final pressure of 400 kilopascal in a reversible process. Calculate the work and heat transfer required to accomplish this process. Very well. So before we go into this, what are the parameters that are required? So first we'll write it down. So piston cylinder setup. So let us draw the piston cylinder setup. A very popular example, a piston cylinder setup. Now, this piston cylinder setup contains, he already claims that it is a saturated liquid refrigerant, that is R12. Okay, so this is R12. So everything is saturated liquid. So at state 1, you can claim that the phase is saturated liquid of refrigerant R12 at a temperature of T1 is equal to 20 degrees Celsius. A temperature of 20 degrees Celsius. The piston now slowly expands. So this piston moves from this location to, let's say, another location. So this is the new location of the piston. Let's say this as state 2. So this is an expansion process, constant temperature expansion process. If this is to expand, obviously some heat is to be added to this to make it from state 1 to state 2. Hence it is written over here as a constant temperature heat transfer process. Okay, the pistons now slowly expands, maintaining the constant temperature to a final pressure of. Now here, when it comes over here, I don't know the phase is to be established, so I leave it as it is. Earlier it was saturated liquid, now the phase is to be identified. But what are the other properties? Other properties are P2, it reaches to a final pressure of 400 kilopascal, maintaining constant temperature. So here the temperature T2 is equal to T1, which is equal to 20 degrees Celsius. These are the given conditions in a reversible process. So you have to evaluate it for reversible process. That is very important. Reversible process. Now calculate work and heat transfer required to accomplish this process. Obviously, since heat is supplied over here, so it is going to expand. So the expansion, that means work is done from 1 to 2. So you have to evaluate both. What is heat transfer and what is work transfer for the given case. Okay. So let's begin with the analysis. Here, as T is constant and the process is reversible, of the signs what we have already decided for a change in entropy, equality sign is to be used. Okay, delta Q is less than or is equal to 0. So in that, equality sign. Inequality is for irreversible process. So here we are dealing with a reversible process. Hence, equal or equality sign is to be applied. Hence, we have from the equation, okay, delta Q by T equation is to be used. So this equality sign is to be used. Okay. Now this becomes what? This becomes Q122 by T. So from the entropy equation, now I would like to bring in the entropy equation. The entropy equation says that heat transfer equation, which is to be evaluated. So this heat transfer is equal to, okay, we have to evaluate it. So we have to develop the equation. So how to develop the equation? So first we need to find out that change in entropy delta S is equal to integral delta Q by T. The equality sign is used because it is a reversible process. Let's evaluate it from process 1 to 2. So integrate it from 1 to 2. So this delta S, okay, entropy, total entropy, I am going to write it as specific entropy. So it is M S2 minus S1. Okay, M S2 minus S1. Change in entropy is required. So delta S is split into, first you can write it as capital S2 minus capital S1, or on specific property basis it is M into S2 minus S1. Now here, since it is given that the temperature remains constant, so we have constant temperature approach. So 1 by T comes out from the integral term, 1 by T comes out. So remaining is integral delta Q. Now here I will be changing a bit here, S2 minus S1 M. Okay, what is required? Heat transfer is required. So I will take this T also over here. So it is T M S2 minus S1 equal to, when you integrate it, you will be getting heat transfer from process 1 to 2. Therefore, the final form after rearranging is going to be, okay, mass of refrigerant, its temperature and change in entropy, specific entropy. So this is the equation that we are looking for. So equation is developed. Now we need to substitute the values. What are all given here that we need to look into. Okay. So from this expression, what is the value of M? Mass. Mass is not mentioned here. Okay. What is mentioned is its volume. So volume and at a given temperature T1 makes the properties at state point 1. So mass can be obtained as its volume, that is volume of the tank over here, okay, so this is the volume, divided by specific volume at state point 1. So we have this state point 1. From these two properties we can find out what is the value of mass. So now volume is given as 1 liter. So let me convert that 1 liter into standard unit, that is 0.001 cubic meter, divided by, we need to find out specific volume of R12 at a given initial condition, that is temperature 1. So we need to go to property tables. So from the property table, that is refrigerant R12, page number 34 and 35. So moving to 34, for R12 at a temperature of 20 degrees Celsius, you need to find the specific volume. Now the question is, which specific volume, whether we need to refer to Vf or Vg. In the statement only it is given, it is saturated liquid, and hence the value of V1 is nothing but Vf, that we need to calculate. So that value of Vf is 0.00075. Okay, can note it down. And this value is 0.000752, which is taken from property tables, 0.000752. This is cubic meter per kg. So cubic meter get cancels. This kg comes on the side. So the mass of this is, okay, if you calculate, it is 1.33. So I'll be writing here, mass is 1.33. Now in the property tables, some misprint you can observe, especially for the specific volume column, where he has given in the third column, though he has mentioned the values in 0.63 or in the digital form, but on the top he mentions it as into 10 to the power 3. Okay, it is mentioned like this, Vf into 10 to the power 3. Actually it should be minus 10 to the power 3. Okay, it should be into 10 to the power minus 3. So make a note of that. In all tables of refrigerant, this misprint is given, so we can convert that value. Actually if you look into, for a given temperature of 20, for R12 the value is 0.752, and actually it should be divided by 1000, so it comes around 0.000752. so that one change you must observe. Now after calculating the value of M, now is we need to find out S1, entropy. Okay, so again from the same table, entropy, that is SF, is to be calculated. So he has given after specific volume enthalpy, and after that it is given as entropy. So for a given temperature, entropy, SF value is to be considered. Okay, so I'll be writing the values, or rather I'll give you the values. You can note it down later as 0.2078 kilojoule per kg Kelvin. So again S1, which property, SF, is to be looked into, because it is saturated refrigerant, saturated liquid form. So we need to look into the SF value, kilojoule per kg Kelvin. So now first M we have obtained, temperature we know, S1 is known. Now how to look into S2? What is the phase after heat is transferred? What is the phase? So first we need to check that for a temperature of 20 degrees Celsius and 400 kilopascal, what is the phase? So how to look into from the property diagrams. So at state 2, it is mentioned that the pressure is 400 kilopascal and temperature remains as 40 degree Celsius. So one thing what you can observe, 20 degrees Celsius. One thing that you can observe here, is for 20 degrees Celsius, the corresponding pressure is 5.6 bar. Okay, so if you correlate over here, it turns out to be around 4 bar, which is less than that. If you remember the characteristics of phases, then given P is less than its saturation pressure, hence it exists in the form of superheated vapor. Or the other way around, if you go to the pressure value 400 kilopascal, whereas here all the values are given in bar, so 400 kilopascal means it is 4 bar. So for 4 bar on page number 34, that is second column, pressure value I am referring to, 4 bar, the corresponding temperature is 9 degrees Celsius. Okay, so I'll just mention over here that at 4 bar, which is equal to 400 kilopascal, Tsat, its corresponding saturation temperature is nearly equal to 9 degrees Celsius, but it exists in the form of 20 degrees Celsius. Since from these two, what we can write is, since given temperature T 20 degrees Celsius is greater than its Tsat, okay, we can say that the phase at 2 here after transferring heat is superheated. That means it is changing its phase from the given saturated liquid phase to superheated vapor. During this, what is the amount of heat transfer, and as the piston expands, what is the amount of work done, is what he has asked. So now our objective is to find the value of S2 by going to the superheated table. Now the superheated table, very next to that, R12, you have on page number 36 a superheated values, properties of superheated values. So first is you need to go to the pressure of 400 kilopascal or 4 bar, which is given in the next page, that is page number 38. So on page number 38 you can see that next to the temperature, which is the saturation temperature, in bracket the pressure values are given. So here we have 3.5 bar and then 3.6 bar, and immediately after that we have 7 bar. So a lot of interpolation is required here, okay, to get the value of corresponding property of entropy at 400 kilopascal. You need to go for interpolation. So the interpolated value, that is S2, I'll give you here, take it down. So once we know that phase is superheated, go to superheated table, 400 kilopascal or 4 bar and a temperature of 20 degree Celsius. Both we need to keep a look. So after interpolation, the value of S2, which is superheated, is 0.7204 kilojoule per kg Kelvin. So SF you can very well note it down from the property tables, since you can get it from the saturated liquid data. Since S2 lies in the superheated region, we need to go for superheated table and get the value of S2 through interpolation. Now once we are done with this, we can evaluate the heat transfer. So the value of heat transfer can be obtained as, so I will be mentioning here, very well, I can take out this. So the value of heat transfer Q1 to 2 is MT S2 minus S1. What is M? M is 1.33. While substituting T, temperature has to be in absolute, that is in Kelvin. So substitute the value of temperature in Kelvin. So since it is given as 20, so it is plus 273. That becomes 293. Okay, into bracket S2 minus S1. S2 is obtained through interpolation, that is 0.7204 minus S1 is 0.2078. So this is the amount of heat transfer, which turns out to be around 200 kilojoule. So you can calculate this. Check it out later. So this is how we can calculate the amount of heat transfer. But he has asked along with that what is work transfer also. So work transfer is obtained from energy equation. So here we need to recall the energy equation from first law, which says that W122 is equal to Q122 minus MU2 minus U1. So let's see how this equation can be obtained or derived. We know that from first law, one work transfer is equal to dE, or it is E2 minus E1. Okay. Now since there is no information available about kinetic energy, potential energy, and only internal energy is included, so straight away I'll be using here as U2 minus U1. Okay. Now all the terms what I'm using here are for unit mass basis, so it turns to be around MU2 minus U1. Therefore, since work transfer is required, from this expression work transfer is equal to this. I'm going to rearrange. So it is Q122 minus MU2 minus U1. In some books, if you refer, there is a slight change that they have given. What they have mentioned is, they instead of taking minus into this, what they have written is M, and they have swept these two. Okay, change over. From U2 minus U1, you make it U1 minus E2. So minus sign comes out, minus into minus becomes plus. So I'll be writing here as M U1 minus U2. This is plus as it is, there is no change, plus heat transfer to this. So sometimes you may observe this kind of a change also. Okay, so from this expression to this. Now our objective is to find out two more specific properties, that is U1 and U2 in the same way. How to get the value of U1? So U1 is to be obtained at state point 1. So obviously this is UF. Okay, specific internal energy of R12 for a given value. Now in some books only specific volume, entropy and enthalpy is given, especially for refrigerants. So in such cases, how to evaluate the value of U1? Now here comes the combination property called enthalpy. Okay, so with the help of enthalpy, we can get the value of U1. Okay, even if we refer to this property table, here it is not mentioned, there is no information about internal energy. So only temperature, pressure, specific volume, enthalpy and entropy are given. But we need at some point of time some references of these specific entropy values. So these specific entropy values are obtained from the combination of enthalpy or enthalpy, which is given as U plus PV. Okay. Now since I want U1, so I'll be writing it as H1, U1, P1, V1. So out of that, U1 is equal to, it is what? H1 minus P1, V1. So here H1 means it is HF at a temperature of 20 degrees Celsius from R12, which is given here. Enthalpy is given very well. So HF you can note it down. Pressure, the corresponding saturation pressure, because it exists in the form of saturated liquid. So once you draw TSN or PV diagram for that matter, we will come to that on the saturation dome. The point lies on the saturation line and that will remain constant. So for that temperature, now T and P are related. So the corresponding saturation pressure, you can take it down. So for 20 degrees Celsius, the saturation pressure is 5.67 bar or 567 kilopascal. So that value you can substitute here. And again V1, which is already obtained, okay, Vf you can substitute, and thus you have to get the value of U1 in kilojoule per kg. Okay, so this practice you need to take it up. So here I'll be giving you the values of U1 as 54.45. Okay, after substituting all this, it is 54.45. Or if you want complete values, I can give you the complete values from the property diagrams, but practice it at home so that you can get the value of this specific internal energy. Okay, so here I can give you the value of enthalpy so H1, what you can make down here is this H1 for 20 degrees Celsius is 54.87 minus, so this is H1 in kilojoule per kg. I am just omitting the units here, and pressure is 567.3 should be in kilopascal, and its a specific volume, we already noted it down, it to be 0.000752, 0.000752. So that turns to be around 54.45 kilojoule per kg. So this is how we can obtain the value of specific internal energy. Now this is at state 1. At state 2, now this is bit complicated because everywhere for all the properties we need to go for interpolation and get the values. That is time consuming, but can work it out later. The value of U2 obtained is 180.52. Okay. In the similar fashion, how we have used the enthalpy equation, you have to use the again enthalpy equation as H2 equal to U2 plus P2 V2, and you have to get the value of H2 interpolated, U2 is to be calculated. Therefore, here I can write it as U2 is equal to, it is H2 minus P2 V2, whereas H2 is in the superheated range. Its corresponding pressure is already mentioned there as 400 kilopascal, and its corresponding specific volume, again this need to be interpolated. So after calculating that, the final value of that is 180.57 kilojoule per kg. So thus we can get the value of U1 and U2. Now all the terms are known over here. Therefore, substituting in the equation, okay, you can get the value of 1.33 and then U1 or U2 minus U1 and final all that. So that will give you 1.33. So U1 is 54.45 minus U2 is 180.57 plus heat transfer, we have calculated it to be around 200 kilojoules. So that sums up to 32.3 kilojoule of work is done in moving the piston from its state point 1 to state point 2. Thus we can obtain the value of heat transfer, which is 200 kilojoules, and work transfer to be 32.3 kilojoules. Okay, so this is the solution. Now these are the PV and TS diagrams. So let's relocate them on the PV and TS diagrams. How to understand the property diagrams there on PV, saturation dome. So it is already stated that it is on the saturated liquid. So my state point 1 would be here. Now as on PV diagram we have the temperature downward trend, on that you can locate. So state point 1 is here at the saturation point, and the state point 2 is somewhere here in the superheated region. So this is the final state. So this is V1 and this is V2. The same thing can be shown on TS diagram. Okay. So I'm going to add to this how to understand the same on TS diagram, the saturation dome over here. Now on TS diagram, what is important here is to note down that this is at constant temperature. So at constant temperature, I will be writing a value which is for 20 degrees Celsius. On T, randomly I take a point which is on saturation dome, and I completely elaborate it. So point 2 would be somewhere here. So this is constant temperature heat transfer process. So this gives us the amount of work transfer as well as heat transfer. So this is the area which tells about the work transfer and heat transfer, and this is the line of temperature, okay, constant temperature Tc, and this is equal to 20 degrees Celsius. Throughout it remains constant. Now here it is constant degree temperature. That is the end of the solution. Okay, let's move on to the next theory, that is how best we have seen so many equations. So the thermodynamic property relations are to be obtained at, which are popularly called as TDS relations, which is mentioned over here, the thermodynamic property relations. So what are these thermodynamic property relations? We derive two important thermodynamic relations for a simple compressible substance. Again, so we need to assume under what conditions we need to obtain these thermodynamic relations, which are called as the TDS relations. Small derivations are involved here, so let's take up those small derivations and then we can use those equations in the numericals to analyze entropy change to a further level. So the equations we need to develop here are two. One is this. The first equation is TdS is equal to, now all the values what are shown over here are on complete basis, that is total properties. So TdS is equal to du plus pdv, du plus pdv. No small terms are used like specific properties. We are not using at present the specific properties, all are total properties. How to derive this first equation? The second equation is also same, TdS equal to dH minus vdP. So let's develop the first equation. Now here in the step 1, what we recall here is the first law for a change of state under these conditions. Which condition? A simple compressible substance neglecting the gravitational and motion effects. So we can write delta Q is equal to du plus dou W. So it is clear from the first law that what we are going to write, delta Q is equal to, okay, there is no much change over here. Earlier we used to write it as delta Q minus dou W. Now it is rearranged to du plus dou W, whereas dq and dou W are path functions and du is point function, hence it is a property of the system, and heat and work are not property of the system, and because of that we have changed in the mathematical notation of using delta Q is equal to du plus dou W. Step 2. In the second step, for a reversible process, okay, this is important, for a reversible process of a simple compressible substance, we can write the entropy equations. Now we are going to recall entropy equation. The first one is energy equation from first law. The second one is entropy equation, which is written as delta Q is equal to TdS. So this expression has come from where? This expression has come from delta Q by T is equal to ds. So delta Q is equal to TdS. Simple. Okay. So from that point of view, delta Q is equal to TdS. And for a simple compressible substance, the work equation delta W, we know that delta W is calculated as PdV, displacement work. So from that equation we can write that. The third step is rearranging the terms, energy equation with the entropy equation. Okay, so substituting these relations into first law equation, we have what we are going to write here is, in place of delta Q here from the first law, I am going to write it as TdS, and I am going to substitute for delta W PdV equation. So I will be getting this expression. So what I will do, in the first expression I write for delta Q is equal to TdS. So it is TdS is equal to du, I will keep it as it is, plus this dW I will be writing for PdV. So the equation obtained is what we wanted. TdS equal to du plus PdV. Simple. Now here we are just looking at how best we can change the properties, rearrange them, and understand entropy to a better level. That's all. Okay, that's the reason why these thermodynamic property relations are used. Next, note that this equation was derived by assuming a reversible process. Now understanding is important. It is not just deriving it. Deriving isn't simple. Deriving is just a 3-step, as you can see here. Step 1 is recalling the first law. Step 2, recalling the entropy equation. Step 3 is merging the two and getting a final equation, which we named it as a new or thermodynamic property relation, which is popularly called as a TdS relation. But the reason behind that, okay, this equation is derived assuming a reversible process. So other than this reversible process, can we use it? We'll come to that later. This equation can therefore be integrated for any reversible process. Remember that. This expression, whatever we have written here, this can be written in the integral form. TdS is equal to, integral TdS is equal to integral du, okay, du means d capital U here, not small u, plus integral P dV, provided for if it is a reversible process. For during such a process, the state of the substance can be identified at any point during the process. We know state points 1 and 2. We also note that the above equation, that is this equation, deals only with the properties. Okay, you can check that. Here it deals with only properties. We have eliminated, rather my point here is to say that we have eliminated the heat and work interaction, which are not the properties of a substance or system under consideration. Whatever we have considered are all properties. Temperature is a property, entropy is a property, internal energy is a property, pressure is a property, and volume is a property. So it's a collection of properties. They are summed up to form. So that's the meaning of this. Deals with only properties. Next, suppose we have an irreversible process taking place between the given initial and final states. So can we use this integration? That's the question. In the case of using energy equation be it or entropy equation be it, where delta Q, delta W, which are the path functions, which are not a property of a system, were involved, it's difficult to use the irreversible process there. But since you have converted all that into properties, now you can see that the properties of a substance depend only on the state. Whether you go by a reversible path or irreversible path, the initial and final states will remain same. So still we can integrate this equation for an irreversible process. That's the meaning of this. Depends only on the end state, and therefore the changes in the properties during a given change of state are the same for an irreversible process as for a reversible process. So that is the beauty of using these TdS relations. Whatever you used to do it for a reversible process, now you can do it for irreversible process also, because the initial and final states are not going to change. They will remain the same. We have eliminated the path functions by point functions in the TdS relation. Okay. Finally, therefore, the above equation, that is TdS equal to du plus PdV, is often applied to an irreversible process between two given states, and hence can integrate it. But the integration of this equation is performed along a reversible path between the same two states, because it is stated in the entropy equation that integral is only for a reversible process. Since it doesn't reflect much on the irreversible process, we can take the reversible process, integrate it, and we can equate it to an irreversible process. Now the second equation. The second equation here, okay, side by only I will be taking it here, of the TdS relations is TdS is equal to dH minus VdP. So this TdS is equal to dH minus VdP. Same three steps are there. Okay, look into this. The second equation can be obtained as, since the enthalpy is defined as, we know how the enthalpy is defined. Okay, it's given as H total enthalpy is equal to H U plus PV. Differentiate this. Differentiating the above equation, Okay, it follows that differentiating each term. So here I'll be differentiating this, so I'll be getting dH, here I'll be getting du. Now pdv, differentiation, u into v, so I'll be keeping p as it is, differentiation of v, plus v as it is, differentiation of p. Simple. Okay, now substituting this relation, whatever that is obtained here, this relation into this expression, TdS is equal to du plus pdv. How to substitute that? What is common in the two terms is du. So in place of du or du plus pdv, whatever is considered together, du plus pdv, transfer that on one side. So du plus pdv is equal to dH minus, okay, this is equal to dH minus v dp. So here in this term, if I substitute this, the value of TdS is equal to du plus pdv, which is nothing but dH minus v dp, which is the required form, dH minus v dp. Okay, it's as simple as that. Again, the concept, whatever I have explained for the first expression, that is TdS equal to du plus pdv, all the conditions holds good for this expression also. Okay. Now, finally, these two expressions of TdS equal to du plus pdv as well as TdS equal to dH minus v dp can be written for a unit mass. Okay, for write it for specific properties. So T is an intensive property, cannot be changed. ds, entropy, is an extensive property. So first equation is written as TdS equal to du. Again, this is extensive property, so I'll be writing here as intensive property. Du, P is an intensive property, dV, TdS equal to du plus PV. Similarly, the equation is written as TdS, small s, specific entropy, change in specific entropy, is written as the dH, so small h minus v dp, minus v dp. So we have now a collection of more properties. We need to deal with these properties and evaluate the entropy change for different substances. Let's check it out. Now let's apply this for solid or liquid. What is that? Entropy change in solid or liquid. So let's consider the calculation of internal energy and enthalpy changes, okay, with the temperature for solids and liquids. And in the previous discussion of specific heat, where we have taken this as a special case, how specific heat is applicable to solids and liquids, and then finally we took it for gases also. Okay, so let me recall over here that we have written for solids and liquids, the specific heat is related to the equation given there. The constant volume or constant pressure, specific heat doesn't matter when it comes to solids and liquids. So that is the emphasis here. So the change in enthalpy, I'll be writing that whatever is written there in the bold, dH is equal to du plus dPV. How this equation has come? Again, this equation has come from the enthalpy equation. All I'll be writing it on the specific properties. H is equal to U plus PV. Now differentiating this expression, I'll be getting dH is equal to du plus again UV method. So P I'll be keeping as it is. It is dV plus V into dP. Now since we are using it for solid or liquid, both are incompressible. Liquid are incompressible. Meaning what? There is literally no, as far as the change in volume is considered. So from here this term vanishes, dV becomes 0, and hence this equation is nearly equal to du plus V dP. So dH is equal to or nearly equal to du plus vdp, and it is true that for both of these phases, that is solid and liquid, the specific volume being small such that in many cases it is equal to du plus dt. But from the specific heat concept, this dH is equal to du plus C dt is established. dH is equal to du C dt. So separately, if this equation is written, then dH is equal to C dt and du is equal to C dt. Or in the earlier case, what we have taken is dH by dt is equal to Cp and du by dt is taken as Cv. But since for Cp and Cv for solids and liquids will remain same, hence only C is considered. Okay, so that is the base of these equations. Now we can use this result and thermodynamic property relations to calculate the entropy change for solid and liquid to be in this particular expression. ds is simply equal to du by t or is equal to C by t dt. So whatever earlier equation that we have used, that is, I'll just write it here, T ds is equal to, just go back to the previous equation, T ds is equal to du plus P dV, and this expression of du is equal to C dt. So wherever I have this du, I'll be writing here, okay, ds is equal to this t, I'll be taking it over here, so it is du by t plus P by t into dV. Again for solids and liquids, the change in volume is 0, so this is eliminated, so it is du by t, what, ds. So this ds is equal to du by t. So first parameter is taken, ds is equal to du by t. What is du? From here, from this expression, du is equal to C dt. So if you substitute here in place of du, what is du? It is C dt. So it is C dt by t. So this expression is obtained, C by t into dt. After rearranging it, so it is C by t dt. So this ds is equal to the first form, that is du by t. So ds is equal to du by t. This is how it is obtained, ds equal to du by t, or the same ds is equal to, and specific heat is given for a solid or liquid. So these are the equations which we are using to find out entropy change ds for solids or liquids. So the integral above equation can be written. Now once the differential form is obtained, we can very well integrate this form. Okay, say for example integrating this form between state 1 to state 2, I'll be getting S2 minus S1 is equal to, where both C is constant for solids and liquids, there is no much variation, or rather we assume that though the temperature varies, the specific heat will not change much. So assuming that we are having a constant specific heat here, so C will remain as it is. So dt by t, integration of dt by t is ln t, and after substituting the states, that is 1, 2, that is range, so we will be having C ln T2 by T1. So this is the final form. Okay, let's take an example of how the entropy change of a liquid, okay, can be considered. The same thing is applicable to solids. So I'll be taking only one example, standard example on liquid, to evaluate what is the change in entropy. I'll read the statement. 1 kilogram of liquid water is heated from 20 degrees Celsius to 90 degrees Celsius. Calculate the entropy change assuming constant specific heat. This is important. Assuming constant specific heat, and compare the results with that found using the steam tables. So one is you are solving this by assuming that the specific heat will remain constant, and second one you are obtaining the values from the property tables and then you are substituting that in the equation and you are finding it as it is. Okay, so let's take up the solution. Water is used. The method 1 is assuming constant specific heat from the equation. Okay, whatever equation that we have developed, that equation I am using here, or ds is equal to, earlier what we have got was C by T dt. Now this, if we integrate it, it's going to be S2 minus S1. Now C is constant between state 1 to 2. It comes out integral 1 to 2 delta T upon T. So C is as it is. Integral of this is ln T over the points T1 to T2. So C ln T2 by T1 will give you change in entropy. Now we need to assume in the first case the specific heat, constant specific heat. Now the substance used is liquid water, and for liquid water the specific heat from the property tables can be obtained. I'll show you in the first pages, table 1. We can use specific heat of common solids and liquids. Okay, where you have for liquid it is water. So at a given temperature of 20 and 90 degrees Celsius, various values are given. We need to consider the standard one, that is 4.18. Okay, which is at 320 Kelvin, 1 atmospheric pressure and 320 Kelvin. So get this value of C in the equation. Therefore method 1. So it is S2 minus S1 is equal to C ln T2 by T1. So C is specific heat of water, which is 4.182 kilojoule per kg Kelvin, of course, and then get the value of T2 and T1, which are to be in absolute values. So and take them as ln T2 is given how much? Is 90 degrees Celsius. So it is 90 plus 273 divided by initial temperature is 20 plus 273. So calculating that, we'll be getting it to be 0.8958 kilojoule per kg Kelvin. So since this is in kilojoule per kg and this is in Kelvin, we'll be getting this in kilojoule per kg Kelvin. As simple as that. Now next one, the second method is using the steam tables. So in steam tables, what are we are going to get it here? In steam tables, here he has stated that 1 kg of liquid water is heated. So it is a heating process from 20 degrees Celsius to 90 degrees Celsius. Calculate the entropy change assuming constant. Okay. Now in the method 2, since we want change in entropy, S2 minus S1, S2 is what? Is the entropy at a given temperature of 90 degrees Celsius. So at 90 degrees Celsius, water is still in the saturated liquid form. So no need to worry about the phase unless until it crosses 100. So well within the range. The value of S2 is nothing but SF at 90 degrees Celsius, that is state 2, minus we have S1 which is still in the saturated liquid state but at a temperature of 20 degrees Celsius. So this you need to find out from property tables. So here we need to go to a temperature table, simple temperature table for water, and at 20 degrees Celsius, 90 degrees Celsius, we need to find the value of SF. SF means in the column 11th column on page number 7, 11th column. So here it is 0.2966, the value of S, 0.2966 for 20 degrees Celsius, and for 90 degrees Celsius the value of SF is 1.1925. So after calculation we get it to be 0.8959. So it is 0.8959. Check the values. Okay. So here it is kilojoule per kg Kelvin. Whether by method 2 or method 1, the answer what we obtain is one and the same. So there is nothing wrong in assuming the specific heat of a given solid or liquid and proceeding to calculate the change in the entropy process. Okay, so in the next class we'll extend our discussion on to entropy change of an ideal gas, which is very important. It is elaborative, so we can deal with this in the next class in detail. But you can expect these simple numericals on solid and liquid for various temperatures and pressures. Now here I have taken simple numerical where temperature range is just 20 to 90, that means it's still in the single phase. It can so happen that when temperature is increased from 20 to say 180 degrees Celsius, you need to find the phase and then substitute the value of S2. So that exercise we already done many times. Hope you can able to consider that. Okay. So in the next class we'll deal with entropy change for an ideal gas. Thank you.